What is going on, beautiful people? There are many underrated weapons in Borderlands 2. This is for several reasons, but for the sake of being nice, let's just gloss over them and say the community is not always the most nuanced when discussing this game. There is a sort of positive feedback loop in play here, where many of the most popular content creators in the space tell their viewers that X weapon is bad. Then their viewers believe them without ever even testing it themselves. These viewers in turn do the same thing, taking their favorite creator's word as gospel and continuing the cycle by themselves, telling everyone else X weapon is bad. This has a ripple effect where 90% of the people telling you this weapon sucks have never even properly used it, reinforcing the narrative that most weapons suck, which finally, of course, reinforces the content creator's beliefs even more. In fact, so bad is the misinformation in this community that some of you have probably already started typing comments saying, "It's not that the community doesn't know which weapons are good, it's that OP10 is so hard, everything sucks." Of course, you are saying this as someone who hasn't actually tested these weapons properly at OP10. You know who has?
This guy.
If you need further proof that there are many excellent weapons in this game, you need only watch my videos. I use a wide variety of weapons and gear very effectively even when playing on OP10 without bar or perfect gear. Or, crazy thought, you could literally just watch the gameplay in this very video before telling me all the weapons suck. Apparently that is extremely challenging for some of you. Anyway, before we begin, just let me explain the criteria of the list real quick. These are weapons that I have either seen a lot of people crap on, misrepresent, or just weapons I like that don't get much love. Feel free to let me know what weapons you would like to see and I can do a part 2. Number 10, the Gub. Kicking things off for us is the Gub. Now admittedly, the Gub is not a powerhouse, but it is underrated simply because so many people think this weapon is non-viable on OP10. Yes, I know it's kind of a meme in Jolt's Dude's community, but other big content creators have also pushed the narrative that the Gub sucks, but it doesn't. As you can see, even on OP10, the Gub is a perfectly capable weapon when used on loaders. Probably not one most people would go out of their way to farm, but it will kill things if you happen to get one. Being locked to corrosive does actually make it easy to farm if you do decide to get one. If so, you can get it from Laney White, who drops it at a 10% rate in the fridge. You'll just have to complete the Cold Shoulder side quest first. And of course, it can world drop. I actually have done a full review of this weapon if you want to check that out. I used it on Zero, who is probably the best character for it because of his damage bonuses and the fact that the Gub does shoot slow moving projectiles, which velocity can help with, as can Maya's Accelerate. Why such a low ranking? Well, again, the Gub is no Lady Fist. I will admit, there is a pretty big disparity between the Gub and the 9 other powerhouses on this list. It's just not as terrible as people say. Number 9, the Hot Mama. The Hot Mama is an absolutely amazing weapon. First of all, it's a Fire Jacobs sniper rifle, so it's a Jacobs sniper that can benefit from the best item in the game, the Bone of the Ancients. Second of all, the Hot Mama has a crit stacking special effect similar to the Morningstar. When you land a critical hit, you gain a 50% crit damage buff. You can only gain stacks once every 5 seconds, but each stack lasts 12 seconds. Although from my testing, the Hot Mama cannot do the same glitch that the Morningstar can, unfortunately. Third of all, the Hot Mama has 100% accuracy when ADSing. Fourth of all, the Hot Mama hits on you, which is great if you're down bad like me. Probably avoid this weapon if you're participating in No Nut November though. Fifth of all, this weapon is locked to fire, so it is easy to repeatedly farm. Sixthly, this weapon is capable of one-shotting non-slagged OP10 enemies. Okay, that sounds incredible, so why the low placement? Well, people don't so much as hate on the Hot Mama, as they kind of act like it doesn't exist. I think it kind of got swept under the rug in the Commander Lilith DLC because it wasn't as obviously broken as something like the Peak Opener, and you actually have to be able to consistently get critical hits with it. Plus, the visual pollution from the projectiles can sometimes make it hard to land follow-up shots. Still, an amazing weapon. I have done a weapon review on it if you want to check that out. It drops from Lieutenant Hoffman in the BFFF's side quest in the Commander Lilith DLC at a 20% rate in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. I think it's only a 10% rate below Ultimate Vault Hunter mode though. Number 8, the Creamer. The Creamer is probably my favorite rocket launcher, and I don't see people talk about it very much. It's another one that doesn't really get hated on, but just sort of flies under the radar. So let's discuss what makes it underrated to me. Well, first of all, it's just the raw damage. If you can sweet spot with the Creamer, it's a top 5 DPS rocket launcher. Weapons with sweet spot mechanics are often just satisfying to master, at least to me personally. On top of that, the Creamer will heal you being a Moxie weapon. It's only 2%, but with so much damage, that's still enough to help you out, especially if you're playing on OP10. It also just looks really nice. It's good on basically every character, Axton can boost it with Steady and Do or Die, and because the Creamer deals Pure Splash instead of Grenade Splash, Krieg can boost it. Maya can hold enemies still to easily sweet spot. Zero is Zero, so he's just good with everything. Yes, even weapons that cannot critically hit. Sal can probably do some dumb glitch shit with it. Well, I don't know about Gage, you tell me. Remember, since the Creamer has unlisted projectiles, it can get more out of the B-Shield, although I don't think many enemies are going to be left standing after taking a sweet spot Creamer blast. If you want to obtain it, you'll have to complete the final round of the Creature Slaughter in the Wildlife Preserve. Do be mindful that if you plan on farming Vermivorous, you might want to wait to get this weapon, because the second round is the easiest way to spawn Vermi. But honestly, the best thing about the Creamer is it allows me to make this pun. Creamer, I hardly know her. Number 7, the Chopper. This thing is honestly super fun, and it's a good opportunity for me to further discuss the lack of nuance that is so often present in this community. The Chopper is on this list because it has great DPS, but people talk about it like it's useless garbage. But as you can see from the gameplay, that is not true. The Chopper has objectively high DPS. Being an assault rifle probably doesn't earn it any favors, nor does it being Bandit. People tend to unfairly crap on both. Now, if people said, the Chopper is a DPS monster that runs out of ammo quickly, it wouldn't be on the list, but that's not what they say. They say it's useless garbage. Those are two different statements. Practice with me. The Chopper is a useless weapon that can't do any damage and just dumps all your ammo. Versus, the Chopper is a DPS monster that dumps all of your ammo at once to deal massive damage. You see how those are two different statements? But honestly, the Chopper is just so much fun to use. I really like it on Zero. His damage bonuses make the ammo stretch further, and the precision helps to tighten the massive spread. I would recommend watching my weapon review on this thing if you want to see more tips on how to use it effectively. The Chopper can actually outright kill some bosses, and even the ones it can't kill, it will deal a lot of damage to, allowing you to swap to another weapon once the ammo is spent. But the ammo limitation does hold the weapon back a bit, as does it being a bit unwieldy, because to stop the fire, you will have to swap to another weapon. Hence the 7th place ranking. Being locked behind the most boring raid boss doesn't do it any favors either, but if you want to pick up this beast, you'll have to take down Deciduous for a 33% chance at it. At least he's easy, I guess. It also allows me to make this pun. Chopper, I hardly know her. Number 6, the Bone Shredder. The Bone Shredder is basically a baby Tattler, and for those who don't know, the Tattler is an absolute DPS monster. Genuinely might be a top 5 DPS weapon in the entire game. Compared to the Tattler, the Bone Shredder trades lower damage and accuracy for better fire rate, reload speed, and magazine size. At least when comparing the two versions that Loot Lemon considers to be the max DPS roles. The Tattler has a fixed bayonet accessory, but even considering that, it is better than the Bone Shredder. The better accuracy actually does help too, since the weapon fires 3 projectiles at once. And to get the most out of the Bone Shredder, I would recommend using it in shotgun range. It's basically a high rate of fire, low damage per shot shotgun. I think people often don't give the Bone Shredder a second look because the Tattler exists, but the Bone Shredder is much easier to get, not being locked behind a DLC raid boss. Anyone can farm Bonehead 2.0 to easily get it. You could also combine Ladyfist farming runs with it since they are both in the same area, the Arid Nexus Badlands. Bonehead 2.0, Bonehead 3.0, the Digipeak versions, and even Arguk the Butcher in Dragonkeep all drop this weapon at a 33% rate. While it may not be as good as the Tattler, it is still an incredible SMG. I believe Admiral Baru ranked it in the number 3 highest DPS SMG slot, only beaten by the Tattler and Sandhawk. Do not underestimate this baby. That said, I wouldn't say people really hate on the Bone Shredder, they just don't acknowledge it at all. I have a weapon review for this weapon as well. The Bone Shredder also allows me to make this pun. Shredder, I hardly know her. Number 5, the Pitchfork. This baby is pretty similar to the Chopper. Really high DPS, but runs out of ammo quickly. Although the Pitchfork may not be as unwieldy as the Chopper, but then again, maybe it is. The chopper will have you swapping off of it a lot to save ammo after killing an enemy, while the pitchfork will often have you descoping early to save ammo. But like the chopper, the damage of the pitchfork is insane. A top 5 DPS sniper, it is great at dispatching bosses wide enough to land all the shots on. It is a bit overkill for mobs, as it is often hard to land all the shots on them. For stuff like loaders though, this isn't an issue. Once you learn to manage the ammo of this baby, you can actually use it for a surprisingly long time. And even if not, the pitchfork is excellent for just dumping a bunch of damage on something and then swapping to another weapon. Maybe dump all your pitchfork rounds, then your chopper rounds, and if anything is still alive, it shouldn't be hard to finish off. I rank the pitchfork higher than the chopper for a couple of reasons. First of all, as I mentioned, I do think it's a bit easier to use than the chopper. You might need to descope early sometimes to save ammo, but you don't have to swap weapons. The pitchfork also has unlisted projectiles, allowing it to benefit more from the B-shield. Finally, it is an absolute monster in Zero's hands. Just watch how quickly this thing can melt wider bosses. The only reason the pitchfork isn't higher is because while it is often underestimated, people don't outright hate on it as much as the chopper, and like the chopper, it does run out of ammo quickly. They both just deal a ton of damage in the process. If you want a pitchfork, it drops from Terramorphous at a 2.86% rate, Master Yi at a 1.7% rate, and it can actually world drop. Oh yeah, I've also reviewed this weapon. Number 4, Sledge's Shotgun. What a boatload of ass, is what I would say if I were an ignorant heathen. Just kidding, no hate to Puma. But he did famously hate this weapon, as did a large chunk of the player base. Being a bandit weapon probably amplified this, but honestly, Sledge's Shotgun is a powerhouse. Bandit in general is a very underrated manufacturer. Many of their weapons are top tier, although I think another factor working against this weapon is that it did lose the knockback effect from Borderlands 1, which pissed a lot of people off. However, the damage of this weapon is very nice. When you pull the trigger, it does a double burst, then there's a short delay before you can fire again. With Two Fang, you can get up to a quad burst, which is honestly usually overkill, but is very nice for bosses and badasses. I rank this weapon this high because people hate on it a lot, and the damage is actually very good. I can understand being disappointed by losing the knockback effect, but that doesn't change the fact that Sledge's Shotgun is a powerhouse. It is so fun to run around with Zero, Two Fang shotgun blasting your way through enemies. If you want this weapon, it drops from Smashhead at a 10% rate, the Golden Golem at a 1.95% rate, Hyperius at a 1.67% rate, and it world drops. Personally, I find it kind of hard to see this weapon when it drops from Smashhead, so a loot notifier mod can help a lot. And of course, I have reviewed this bad boy. Number 3, the Sawbar. The Sawbar. This might just be my favorite assault rifle ever. It has so many things stacked together that less informed players often look down on. It's an assault rifle, it's a bandit weapon, and it's a pearlescent. And yet, this thing is an absolute DPS monster. Now admittedly, bandit assault rifles do kind of suck, but I think that's part of the reason why I love this weapon, and the chopper for that matter, so much. You don't often use bandit assault rifles, so they feel very novel when you do. At least for me personally. But the people telling you all pearlescents aside from the Becca and the Butcher are worthless could not have been more wrong. Now there is one thing to keep in mind to get the most out of the Sawbar. You need to sweet spot with it. This is a bit difficult to get a feel for at first, but once you do, oh man, this thing goes through enemies like John Jones' fingers go through his opponent's eyes. If you're having a hard time sweet spotting, you can just use Maya to hold the enemy still. Plus, since the Sawbar deals gun splash, Maya can get a lot out of it with Reaper. One of my favorite ways to play Maya with this weapon is on a subsequence build with a legendary binder. This will boost Reaper and Suspension, allowing you to just melt mob after mob after mob after mob. I do have a weapon review of this baby if you want to check that out. The Sawbar does also have unlisted projectiles, so it will benefit even more from the B. If you want to pick it up, it drops from Tubbies at a 1.67% rate once you're level 80. Apparently it has a 0.337% chance to drop from legendary loot midgets. But if you play on OP5 or higher, the binary boss will drop it at a 12.5% rate. You can actually skip the entire peak if you want to farm him. I have multiple videos covering this, but I will link to my Melee Zero guide if you want to learn how to do that. Finally, you might want to see what Christian has to say in the comments. I know he really loves this weapon. Number 2, the Stalker. I think the Stalker might just have the best hated on to actual performance ratio ever. Meaning for how incredible the damage is, it gets an insane amount of hate and people saying it sucks, that it's useless garbage. That could not be further from the truth. The Stalker is yet another incredibly underrated pearlescent and even a top 5 DPS pistol. Honestly, if it wasn't for the only drawback of having slower moving bullets, this would probably be number 1. The bullets do move a bit slow though, so I like the weapon the best on Zero since he has velocity to boost the projectile speed. Maya can also a bit with accelerate, plus she can just hold enemies still. In exchange for the slow moving bullets, the projectiles will also ricochet up to 5 times. Not game breaking, but it can get you some extra damage and it creates quite the light show. This is another case where the weapon wouldn't be on the list if the community were more nuanced. If people said, man, the Stalker does great damage, but the slow moving bullets are annoying, instead of, man, the Stalker sucks so bad, don't even try using that piece of crap, it wouldn't be here. As you probably suspected, I have covered the Stalker in a weapon review. It was the first video on my channel to get some traction, which was nice. If you want a Stalker, it drops from Tubbies at a 1.67% rate, which are level 80 anyway, and it can drop from Legendary Loot Midgets, level 51 and up at a 0.316% rate. And like the Sawbar, if you're playing at OP5, you can farm the Binary Boss who will drop it at a 12.5% rate. The best thing about the Stalker is it allows me to make this pun. Stalker, I hardly know her. Number 1, the Teeth of Terramorphous. This probably comes as no surprise for my longtime viewers, as I've been glazing this weapon from day 1. In fact, it was indeed my very first weapon review. The Teeth of Terra has everything that I was looking for regarding weapons on this list. It gets plenty of hate or people saying it sucks, it belongs to Bandit, which has historically been overhated, it actually has great damage, and it is quite flexible. In my opinion, the weapon is the best on Zero and Axton, maybe also Krieg. As you might have guessed, this bad boy does grenade splash damage, so Axton and Krieg can both boost it. I love this weapon the most on Zero though. This is because the Teeth of Terramorphous has crazy high damage considering it only consumes 1 ammo per shot, yet it has a massive magazine. Zero can make this baby have incredible single shot damage, but then because of the high magazine size, it can also be a persistence weapon firing again and again. The slower fire rate is a bit of a drawback, but fire rate bonuses can help get around that, and especially Two Fang. So again, Zero can do both great single shot burst damage and he can maintain high damage against tankier targets with it. It looks nice, it's versatile, it's hated on constantly, and it deals great damage. It just has everything I'm looking for in an underrated weapon. I will admit there's some personal bias here, as well as I just really like the weapon. I've got both arguably perfect versions of this weapon, being matching grip vertical grip and matching grip critical hit accessory. If you watched my live streams, you would know that because I got them during my Terra streams, but you don't because you hate me and you hope I die. No hard feelings though. The Teeth of Terramorphous is shockingly locked behind Terramorphous, who does only drop it at a 2.86% rate. It is locked to fire, so you don't have to worry about farming elements at least. Finally, the Teeth of Terramorphous allows me to make this pun. Teeth of Terramorphous, sir, I hardly know her. Perfect. Well, that's it. I will link to the full reviews of these weapons in the description. The Creamer is the only one I haven't reviewed, so I guess I need to do that soon. One thing I did want to mention, for legendaries that world drop, Hatteraxe is actually the easiest way to get them sometimes, if you have learned how to consistently kill him anyway. I have many videos doing so that you might want to check out. So you might have better luck farming a Sledge's shotgun or a pitchfork from Hatteraxe. I'm sure there are many other weapons you guys wanted to see on this list. You know what's great about that? You can actually leave comments on YouTube videos expressing your thoughts. Wouldn't that be funny if you guys liked, commented, subscribed, became members, and donated until I became a millionaire and had a harem of supermodels lining up to be with me? No, that's just me. Oh, okay then. But thanks for watching, guys. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If there's one lasting thing you take from this video, let it be to actually use weapons before you tell everyone they suck. Crazy thought here. Let me know what video you want next. Also, you should check out my world records video because it's almost at 100K and I want it to be my first 100K video. But again, thanks for watching. Extra special thank you to my wonderful members. You guys rock. Most importantly, stay safe and be here next time.